We left Cam in a house on Korokipo Road after plummeting through its ceiling into the murky depths below.
It's bizarre, but there's a fridge or a freezer floating in the ceiling cavity. This couple are got to be in their late 60s, 70s, I would have thought, in no state. And you could remember it's a long time in cold freezing water. So I managed to climb back out. I pulled the fridge or freezer, which was floating, but there was no way I was going to get these two out of this roof. So that's when we flew back and managed to get another ladder because we knew the ladders were working. But in the weather and the conditions, you're in shock probably. We had a first attempt to get her up the ladder, and that didn't work. So I went back to Geoff. He would fly in, and I yelled out, "We're going to need some help." And then you flew Stu, who we managed to pull.
You'd already rescued.
Rescued, and that's where the two kids were in their nappies.
Yeah.
That was a shock too. So we managed to grab Stu to help.
How did you know where to find him? Did you sort of just fly back to somewhere where you'd already dropped Stu and his family off?
I think we went, we must have taken him into that property. It was quite a big place. Yeah, it was a nice landing area, a big green area there. And we probably sent a fair few people in there, didn't we? Because it's down by Moffat, so I think we shuttled a few from there up there.
Was this up Wheatley Road?
I think so.
Is that Wheatley Road up Ericsson's?
Yeah.
So, those people, as you say, weren't coming out of there easily.
We finally rescued them, and the biggest thing, I didn't want to do a hit. They were tired, so I was real worried, and it took a while.
Well, that was a mission, that one, I must admit. That was, for me, that was the trickiest one, I think. It was just quite a crappy wind coming in there, and I couldn't get the helicopter settled. And every time Cynthia tried to get on, she was exhausted. It was, the weight shifting was becoming a bit of I said to Cam, we've got to sort this out. I'm feeling like I'm in one of those bucking bronco things. Okay. And I'm sort of like, let's sort this out because I don't want to get fouled up on gutters and that, because it was just their roof wasn't as easy as perhaps some of the others were. Sure. There was a lot of aerials and antennas.
And the gutters were a hazard for you as well, weren't they?
The gutter was a hazard
for the
there. Yeah, they had box spouting in it, and just where we had to be on that particular one, it was very close to the heel of the skid, and I was paranoid that we'd get in that.
I think we're just in tune too. Normally you put two or three or four people. To be honest, I mean, we had dogs and all, and with this one case, it was one person going in here.
They finally got her in, and I think at one stage, I think you'd had 3 attempts. I'll say 3. I think it was more.
That was a hard one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you got Cynthia to safety, and then you had to go back for raid, didn't you?
Yep. So that was a journey.
So that was one of your more technically challenging rescues
for Geoff, but not for me. I don't think. Well, yeah, it was.
Don't know. That was a bit of a hard one, man.
Yeah, no, it was.
Anyone was harder to get in the helicopter. So from that perspective, I was. I was like, come on, mate, you've been doing a good job all day and you let me down here. Why are they taking so bloody long?
But you had another tricky rescue, and actually you just mentioned something, Cam, about animals, and so there was another rescue that was particularly difficult for you, and that involved someone's pet.
Yeah, a lot of the time you've got to remember your animals are your mate too, and they weren't going to leave their animals behind, because we had German Shepherds and
there was all sorts in there.
We had
Noah's Ark.
Noah's Ark.
They wouldn't leave unless they took the dog. So I think we had 1 adult and 3 dogs sometimes.
There was a lot of pooches came out of that property.
Because at that stage we weren't we were every so often would fly over Taradale, and that new stop bank, the water was up there, and it was still not safe to drop them there. Okay. And then once it started dying down the water, that's where we're dropping them at the EIT. Okay. But so we
were there too, weren't they? So that sort of gave us confidence that
they'd be looked after.
They'll be looked after, and we initially said, can you please open up Pettigrew Arena to let them take shelter? But that unfortunately didn't happen.
Yeah. But there was one case where we went in, they were concerned, and they were in a shed or something with their dog, and they weren't coming out. So I'm wading through mud and water.
And you'd had a bit of a bird's eye view too of what was potentially coming towards their property.
Yeah, and I went back to Geoff and told him about this couple in their shed. And
This is the story that traumas me the most because Cam told me every single story that night. We stayed awake all night talking about it.
Yeah, because the river had just breached just below them, and if the river breached a little bit higher, it was just going to go straight into that shed. And I remember you just...
Was that the ones that didn't want to come out?
Yeah, and I just grabbed their dog and just...
But you're just getting to them through the silk Cam. I remember you describing how exhausted you were, and they wouldn't leave, so you just picked up their dog because he said, like, if the bank goes, you're gone. So Cam currently is in a position
at risk.
Gone if the bank goes. So he grabs the dog and starts wading out with it. And I just remember Cam describing to me how he would have to lean over and rest and just take a moment and just and then do another few steps and then until he got back to you, and they followed. But just the sheer exhaustion, I think.
Yeah.
What were the ladies' names up?
Up in Dartmoor, yes. So that was Lynn McKenna with her mum visiting from Scotland, Rebecca, and Lynn's daughter Naomi.
Because I think we'd initially gone in there to Sally and David's, and they waved us off to go and help them first. That was a flat roof, so it wasn't too difficult, but I later heard that they'd linked arms around their chimney. I think they had a fox terrier sitting on their shoulders. But I remember looking at them going, oh my God, they're blue. And I had no idea that the grandmother was probably in her 80s.
I think she was in her 80s. Yeah.
They were pretty quick getting in, as I recall, those guys. Yeah. But I do remember this, when we met them at the Puketapu, several months later, that I was amazed that they'd actually stayed on that roof and survived that.
The stories going back at that Puketapu, I had no idea because you're just in the moment, and there was one lady, they told later that the kid was coming in and out of consciousness. You just had no idea. But these people were on their roofs for hours.
Yeah,
and
such
hours.
a long time. Yeah.
They're very lucky the time of year. I mean, it wasn't a cold day, but if it were, I think the fatality...
could have been a lot higher, yes.
Yeah, no question, yeah.
So imagine how frightened they would have been, though. They would have totally thought that they weren't going to make it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, Sally and David, I mean, they paddled somehow at night in darkness through 2 rooms to get out. Now, I don't know how you do that. I've sort of often thought, how the hell did they duck dive in the dark? And I don't think she swims. I'd recall her saying something, David dragged me, so incredible.
Yes.
Survival instinct to get
absolutely.
through a house. I mean, poor Marie Green didn't make it, and a very similar, just she was literally 200 metres in the next house down the road.
And that's where I went later on when we had that function at the Puketapu. And to be honest, to hear the stories from them, actually the will to survive or rescue their own family, they're actually climbing out windows, floating up, holding the spouting, waiting till the water gets up to then climb onto the roof, and then like we said just before, the linking arms around a chimney or holding on to sky decoders. We sort of had the easy part of just flying in and picking them up.
And the people that we were, delivering all these people to were, I think Mary from the Puketapu Pub said to me, okay, Geoff, I think you can stop bringing people to us. We've got enough. But, I mean, she would have taken more.
They ended up...
Yeah, well, they'd have gone underwater. And I didn't really realise at that stage that the pub, I couldn't believe it because, I mean, it's on quite high ground there. But, we're just part of the jigsaw, really. Like, there's so many people that helped all these people were bringing in. So, we may have delivered them, but they had to be looked after. And so there were so many stories of people showing top-notch humanity.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, Blair, I think it's Blair you got the letter from.
He got his letter back.
Yeah, no, he did get his letter back.
Oh, wow. Well done.
I bumped into him, I don't know, a few months after the cyclone, and the last couple that he had delivered to their house hadn't long gone because they didn't have anywhere else to go. So they'd stayed there for quite some time with them.
And they were total strangers?
Total strangers.
Yeah,
total strangers.
Okay. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
They lost everything and they got delivered by these 2 chaps here, and they looked after them.
I think the difference with the Pakowai people was everybody was affected. So there were people to help them, but they weren't their neighbours.
Yes.
So Puketapu had some high ground. Fortunately, people that are on the high ground were able to help.
That's
people
right.
That were affected in the valleys. You know?
And a bit like that for Esk Valley as well.
Yeah, so there was a good network.
Pakawhai, yes, they were all in the same situation, weren't they, on that very low-lying ground.
No one didn't get impacted down there. Yeah.
So, Tara, just thinking about how the day was panning out for you. So you're at your mum's place, and obviously it was very difficult for you knowing the situation that Cam had gone into, but you had no way to contact him. But then you were sent a video.
Yeah, I think it was about, I reckon, say 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and I get a WhatsApp video. So it's the first communication that I've had from Cam since we parted ways, really, at like about 7 in the morning. So I start looking at it, and I'm like, oh, wow, look at how high this water is. It's right up to the eave in this house, and like there's someone on the roof. And I'm like zooming in because it's like, that's Cam. It's Cam on the roof. So he was rescuing
Ray and Cynthia?
Yes. Yeah, it took me a while to work out it was him. And so we looked at it closely. Mum and I were looking at this video. It was quite full on. And my mum starts derailing a little bit. She's like, how are they doing that? And I'm like, well, they don't have safety harnesses and they don't have winches. They'll be hovering. Cam will be jumping on the roofs. And she starts to get quite upset.
Mm-hmm.
So I just basically tell her to get her shit together because that's not helping me. Yeah. I didn't never met you at that stage, Geoff. I knew that it wasn't Hayden because I'd rung Hayden. And Hayden was up the river in a jet boat saving people, so I knew it wasn't Hayden. So, so I just had to reassure Mum that Cam's onto it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What recollections would you guys like to share about flying in and out of Bridge Pa that day?
We did near the end, didn't we? We were dropping people.
You're fueling up there too.
There was a bit of a story around that.
Yeah, a little
bit
of a hiccup there. I think probably people on the ground didn't have a full concept of what we were seeing because initially we're just a private operator here, so they saw me land and they realised that I wasn't registered with the civil defence, and they asked me politely to shut down and cease helping people, and I said, buddy, that ain't happening. And he said, well, we can stop giving you fuel. In fact, you're not allowed any fuel from the BP there. And I said, well, that's no problem. We'll go elsewhere. So fortunately, Jimmy Guerin gave us some fuel. And said, there's a Bowser, help yourself, that's yours. So we got on with it. And I think we came back later in the afternoon and then they decided that maybe they'd overstepped the mark there and hadn't had a full appreciation of the situation we were sort of seeing. And they offered us fuel.
They'd seen the light, perhaps.
They'd seen the light, yeah. It was pretty chaos. You know, obviously the comms were particularly bad. I couldn't get hold of Rhea, my family.
Oh, yes.
And fortunately she had the good sense to make for the hills. But yeah, I must admit, we were too busy to even worry.
The day went very fast, didn't it?
I remember looking at the clock.
Oh, you asked me.
I said,
you said, what time is it? And I said, it's 4:00. And you said, no, it must be 11. And I said, no, it's 4. Yeah, time got away quick.
Well, you flew until it was nearly dark.
I felt quite bad for the Wilsons up the head of the Apley Road. We'd seen them and we must have been getting low on fuel. And I said to you, I think we need to go back there. And somehow, I think we ended up down at Ray and Cynthia's because obviously the water started to get high there. And we thought, well, the water will be coming down there. So they became not such a priority. But little bit did we know, I later found out that one of the young ladies on the roof was hypothermic.
Oh, yes,
they thought, you dirty bastards. She never turned up and
Who did rescue them?
They ended up climbing down.
Okay. Once the water had gone.
Yeah, but they spent the whole day up there on that roof. I ended up at a party many months later and they made sure that I knew that I'd missed them. And I said, I'm so sorry, mate. But yeah.
Just coming back to you, Cam and Tara, can you tell us about being reunited at the end of the day?
Yes, so at the end of the day, we just flew till we couldn't fly anymore. It was till it got dark, and the decision was to land on the hill where you could get back to your place. And luckily, at the bottom of that hill, it was Tara's parents. To be honest, I don't even know why I went there.
We hadn't communicated at all.
But I had trust that Tara is a strong woman and she'll be okay, even though I just left her at about 7 a.m. I had no idea, but I knew she'd be okay. But yeah, we walked down the hill, I wandered down her parents' driveway and saw her.
Well, I could hear him walking up the driveway. It's a back driveway, so it was nearly dark. And all I can hear is like the gravel in the driveway and footsteps. And I literally bolted outside, knowing that it would be Cam. And he was a state. It was an absolute state. So I get quite emotional, actually, like just the thought of this. But so he is like, he's got this 80s jacket on, unzipped halfway, there's no shirt on underneath, so his hairy chest is showing. He's got board shorts on, they're ripped at the back, and he's got no undies on. And I don't know if you still had the booties on by that stage. I think you may have.
He owes me a pair of completely stuffed those things.
I would imagine.
I've been wearing them still.
They're now a size 13, right?
Yeah. And they take on a lot more stones than they used to, yeah.
But he just looked like a zombie, actually. Like he looked really hollow and covered in salt. And I just cuddled him and he just said to me too, "It's really bad out there. It's really bad." And that was all he said, we just cuddled. And then I just went, "You need a beer." Gave him a beer. I don't think he really needed a beer at all. But then you're wired. He was wired, like you're wired, right? You think he's so exhausted and you're going to go to bed and it's going to be great.
Wired but tired.
Wired and tired. And then like he just offloaded everything that was of significance that had happened with you guys and the rescues had done. And he even forgets about some of the details that he told me that night.
Yeah.
So we talked all night, really. Talked about how on earth we could get the silt out of the orchards, how we could keep everyone employed. And actually, to be honest, we talked through the night for days on end, really.
Yeah, it's a blur. But yeah, I remember actually, I came with no clothes, basically. When everything was torn off, it must have been a state. There must be some terrible photos out there because when we're offloading, people at the Pedigree Arena, everyone's taking photos, and I don't want, when we're offloading the people, I don't want them going the tail road. So there's me, legs wide apart, stop, go this way, and there's people taking photos. So I hate to know what they saw because
did you have any jocks on?
Nothing. Oh, I know. So these poor people you're rescuing, I'm jumping off a roof and I
didn't notice that. That's small, right?
I think you must have been concentrating on other stuff, to be
fair.
fair.
And he split the shorts he was wearing, but definitely got back. He had like a split on the backside.
I know. But I can remember lying, I borrowed some undies from Granddad, who's a lot smaller than me, because we got nothing. And I was just sitting there exhausted. And
they're little black Speedos, though, just saying. You don't wear Speedos.
Yeah.
It's getting awkward.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. It's a little bit of a piss take. This is who we are. So Cam, like, he's exhausted. He's had a shower. We're winding down. He comes into the bedroom and he's wearing Granddad's little black Speedos. And I went, "I can't take you seriously wearing those. You look like fat Superman. Get them off." Anyway, we just had to have a good laugh.
Yes.
But it's kind of been a little bit of a giggle ever since.
Yeah, but I remember lying in bed and when the cramps came, I couldn't move. Any movement, it was a mess.
And how were you feeling when you got home that night, Geoff?
Well, I remember getting back and as Cam earlier said, that adrenaline had well since gone. And I think I probably had 2 beers and I was floored. I was just like, "Oh, I'm out to lunch here shortly."
Yep.
So fortunately, my cousin had a caravan with a Califont heater in it. So I managed to get a hot shower, which a lot of people wouldn't have got that night. And so that was pretty damn nice. Yeah, and it was great to see the family. They'd told me that they'd made their way up to Fiona and Joe's place.
Okay.
And so
Right.
that, a few stories came out with how they'd sort of got through the day. So I think you couldn't really process what had happened that day. There was too much to process. By the time I got home, it would have been 10:30, 11 at night. And I remember waking, I think, somewhere around 1, and I just stared at the ceiling all night, and I couldn't sleep.
We didn't sleep. We didn't sleep for days.
It was just too much. Hey?
Okay.
The old brain was wired.
Yes, your brain would have been very
totally knackered.
busy.
But it was unusual circumstances, I suppose you could call it, really. But
well, we knew we were going to be flying the next day.
I think the second day we were up the Dartmoor, and the river was still relatively high, but it was well below the stop banks, obviously.
And they were looking for missing people. That's where then we're just checking houses. And I'm at this stage, I think the adrenaline is worn off because you weren't pulling people off roofs at that stage. And it was Ernie Williams' house. And we just wanted to make sure, because he's like my dad's age in his 70s, to make sure he's not in it. And I was just trying to break into the house, but the adrenaline's not there because the people aren't there. But I remember just breaking into his house, trying to break in, and at this stage I was just so tired, just even swinging a little axe to break in. And I remember the spooky bit in that case was he had this perfectly made white bed, and it had floated up. So I'm wading through mud, and the water line's quite high. As the bed just floats, it hits the ceiling or something, and then as the water drops down. So the bed was just perfect, pristine. And that, was too, that was spooky. But then I did know that obviously no one slept in this. I'm not having to look for anyone. But I was exhausted, and probably back then I wasn't the fittest either too. Well, I'm still not fit. You can't comprehend it. It was like on one side of the hill, there's grass. It's there's no power. But there's nothing wrong. It's just you're walking the dog, if you've still got hot water. On the other side of the hill, it's a complete war zone.
I guess the difference with me is that I didn't lose my house. I didn't lose my business. And these guys opposite me here had all that racing through their head. Here's their pride and joy, their immaculate orchard and facilities pretty much destroyed. And the house is a wreck. They didn't even get any red wine out of it. I think you guys said, why are you picking up that red wine? I said, this looks like some pretty decent stuff.
But that was days later.
But there was an attempt to get some beer, wasn't there, Cam?
A couple of days.
No. 5:30 in the morning. The one thing you try and say. The morning of the...
I just saw a little opportunity
So,
there.
the morning of the cyclone. So, we got out of our house, right? I lost Cam for 2 seconds, and I'm running down the hallway going, Cam, where are you? And I reach him. He's in the conservatory trying to lift the little bar fridge up off the ground. There's with water and everything running in. And I was just like, what the F are you doing? And he was like kind of crouched down looking at me like a little puppy dog going, we just spilled it.
I just put a box of beers in the night before, so I had a box, and I have no idea. You would have thought I would take
maybe undies. Maybe undies might have been more important. Anyway, he just I'm standing there abusing him, going, what the F are you doing? And so he just drops it.
There you go. That's the reason.
I saved those beers later.
Women and men.
I'll save them later.
Right there.
Oh, yes. So I just wanting to go down a little bit of a sidetrack. You shared some really interesting comments with me about the comms infrastructure here in New Zealand, which we think of as being a first world country, versus Papua New Guinea, where you spend a lot of your time.
Yeah, obviously Papua New Guinea is very remote and their road networks are poor, and the aviation industry up there supports those areas. Long story short, you could be in the most remote valley, like you could be up the back of the Kawekas or the Kaimanawas. It's rugged and steep, and they had linked-in towers. And when I first went to New Guinea, there was nothing. We'd talk on HF radio, direct comms to each other in terms of the aircraft, but you can sit in a remote village in Panjia in the middle of the boonies, and someone walks out with a bugger all on. He's got a phone in his hands and reasonable reception. There are some areas that have been, they got a tower and then they've decided that the tower and the phones aren't something they want in their community. So there are areas where they've rejected it a little bit. And
Okay.
they either steal the tower or try and make it into a clothesline or do something like that.
Okay.
But yes, the concept of good comms is a real one. And I think in New Zealand, I think our comms are getting worse. I don't know what network we've got in, well, there's some up on Te Waka Range, Havelock North, I think, some at Mount Erin, but one of those dropped out. You know, you got people ringing up from Havelock North going, my internet's out, mate. What the hell's going on? They're going down to the showgrounds in Hastings going, hey, mate, what's the story? We've got no bloody internet. Kids are going mad.
At Mum's in Taradale, we became the hub of communication because no one knew what was happening those first few days. So they knew that you boys were up in the helicopter, and they'd heard through the grapevine that we were staying there and what had happened to us. So we became like the source of information.
Yes, you had the intel, didn't you, from Cam and Geoff?
Yeah.
So people further away, you know, out in Auckland and all that had more information.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Geoff, I'd love you to share your anecdote about flying under the radar, shall we say, in the weeks that followed.
Wow. Mary, probably the most wonderful woman that we have in Puketapu. She's great. So I was dropping supplies out to Brisbane Pātaka, and I could just see people getting a bit edgy, you know. People were, you know, there was a few distribution issues. For the most part, it was pretty good, but, you know, by day, I forget, it was probably day 3, 4, the booze stocks had got a little low. And I sort of went back at one of the morning meetings. I said to the civil defence people, well, I think these guys need a little bit of they need to get together and just have a beer or two. It's not going to be a full-blown party, but they need to sort of just take the edge out of the day a bit. And I said, look, we can take some booze up there. I've spoken to Mary, and she's spoken to the good people up at Lime Breweries, and she's organised the booze. Can we start shuttling this booze around? And that was a firm, they don't need booze. And I thought, where's your heart? And anyway, I managed to, on the sort of, on the low down sneaky, there's a few diversions, let's just say that. So I managed to pick up, I think, about 4 ton of booze. Some of the loads they were a good lot of booze in there. Like, we couldn't have fitted another bottle. But, you know, just landing at Pātaka and Puketapu Waihau Road, when I opened those doors, you have never seen bigger smiles. And they actually all did a pretty good job of distributing that.
It's a great little anecdote.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's these communities, that's where townies or New Zealanders don't realise how isolated these guys were. You know?
Yes, that's right. Yes, they were very isolated.
It's not days, it's weeks.
Yeah. At that point, civil defence and the government agencies had started to filter into town, and they were taking control of logistics and taking over from the locals. And the problem that I've seen this in Australia, that you do start to have problems when you remove the locals. The locals, by all accounts, they know their plot, they know their people, and there needs to be in future events, I think. That is one significant thing I'd say, is that locals must be involved.
That was the same, because that's when we were banned to fly.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
People were contacting us, you know, trying to get food or pick up people to get them to hospital, generators and diabetics. So we're even picking up people who are diabetic and dropping them off. And then we got a phone call or something. They tracked us. So I'm not too sure, that we weren't allowed to fly. And that was hard, because people were coming to us. Can you pick up such and such, or go and check on them? And I wasn't allowed to fly. So that was really hard. And then the big thing too, after that, we're having to try and save whatever crop. The reason the helicopter is in the hangar is for spraying.
I remember more of that than Cam, I think, because he was so traumatized, because we had to say exactly where we were going to spray, and because we were trying to slow down the maturation of what we had left.
Of course,
a lot. And they were sort of saying we couldn't do that, so we had to just justify where we were going, what we were doing. And so trying to get that information out of Cam, it wasn't what I knew about, so I'm trying to get information out of him. So it was really stressful, and you were like yelling at me.
Because we had to communicate. We had to climb up a hill.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
To communicate. So whatever coverage we could to get an email out.
You had to give them a flight path or something.
And timing.
But there were no comms for you to be able to communicate that, were there?
Yeah. Nonsense.
A nightmare.
Yeah. So he's stressed. We're trying to relay it together to try and get approval to save our livelihood or save what's left. You know?
That's right.
And that's just a tiny part of what was there that we could try and salvage, but they didn't make it easy.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
It was a bloody mess, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's what shocked me, that when we did get through, I forget, it must have been days later when I drove back through Fern Hill, and every morning it was just like, I just can't believe what we're seeing. And I was thinking, is a fire worse or is a flood worse? A fire, okay, it's gone. Let's bulldoze it. But the silt,
the mud, because it was a soup, like you couldn't wade through it. So you can't even get into your house or your sheds or anything.
But people that don't understand the concept of that deep, sticky silt and like the fact that all your furniture is scrambled around the house and that the bath's pulled out and that there's things in front of doors, and they don't understand. They're like, why don't you just pull everything out and wash it down? It's like, it's not actually that easy.
No.
Oh, yeah. And I remember friends of ours offered their place in Havelock, to keep the family together. And that was the hard part. So it's a beautiful house in Havelock, and we're staying there. But it was actually the trauma of dealing with death, with animal death, the smell or whatever. There's caravans and trees, and, we're trying to sort stuff out. And then you go across the bridge and it's green and there's people drinking in pubs. And I'm not too sure how many days we stayed there, but in the end, it was easier just to live in the war zone, which seems crazy, but it was just easier just mentally
Plus there was the traffic as well.
That was not much fun. I got abused so much by people trying to get every morning from Taradale across that highway, and the traffic was bumper to bumper, and I'm just like, I need to get to work because I've got to go and do supplies, and there was no real way of me other than being cheeky. I was driving literally in the weeds to get past. I got to a briefing one morning and I said to the civil defence, can you give me one of those flashy lights and a sticker or something just to say that I'm essential to the operation here? And I got the bird plenty, I was just like, wow, sorry buddy. And it was just honking. It was brutal. People turned a bit crazy. Even in the streets, there was obviously people looting and disbelief, It's like...
the looting was a horrible situation.
Yeah, you can see how quickly it goes downhill if people aren't getting what they normally get.
Yeah,
the wheels of civilization fall off quite quickly, don't they?
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Cam and Tara, that you would like people to understand about the huge challenges faced by the horticultural and orcharding sector after Cyclone Gabrielle?
Well, yeah, I think in the city they don't realise when you have a bad day at work, you hop in your car and you drive home, and you in the rural sector where for us, if you have a bad day, you're living on the job too. So mental health for farmers in horticulture, it's brutal. So it's hard out there. And I don't think people realise the extent of the damage and the impact or the importance of horticulture in Hawke's Bay. It's hundreds of millions of export dollars the jobs. We employ 300 staff in the season, so there's a lot of families to feed.
That was the thing I'm most worried about in the first few weeks.
About keeping those families in work. Sure.
Yeah. How are we going to clear the silt? How are we going to keep everyone employed?
And I just went into lobby mode too, because I knew we need the ministers, we need them down to see how bad this is.
Yeah. Actually, you kicked in real fast with that. Cam wasn't anywhere to be seen for months. So I was just trying to, clear out a place we could live. So I had lots of people come and help. And at the end of it all, I asked them if they wanted to come see our house, and people would jump at it because they want to go see it. And I wanted them to see it because I wanted them to feel it and smell it and see the destruction and understand it.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like if you don't kind of stand in amongst it, you can't really get it? Like, I don't feel like...
Seeing is believing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And are you still in 2C there, guys? What's
no,
happening?
just in the last 2 weeks ago, I think we finally got out of that, which is a long time, isn't it? It's crazy.
And it's a lot of uncertainty.
Oh, it is. And I'm actually lucky that I'm living at my father's house. But there's not families that are lucky like me, So there's still people 2.5 years later living in caravans. You've still got a mortgage of your house, but you're not allowed to build, so you're still in 2C, so you're in limbo. And your insurance money, if you got insurance, it's nothing. $30,000. That's not going to pay the rent for long.
Yeah. But I felt really guilty that we had somewhere nice to go and embarrassed and like a fraud. Yeah. And then people are helping you and then you feel like we're living in this amazing house, which was also flooded, but...
Yeah, that's right. That house was flooded too. And so you had your work cut out for you just to get that house...
I was trying to get our old house out and clean all that stuff. I was trying to clear out the sheds and everything else as well. And so it's just silt everywhere. We've still got stuff in the shed we still haven't gone through. Like it's just a process.
You've worked your guts out and you still are.
Yeah, but the guilt of that.
Do any of you feel that there were any pivotal or in-the-moment decisions that you made that day that might have been the difference between survival and a tragic outcome for yourselves or for anyone else?
I knew there was people that we saved their lives, but I had no idea how many, because we airlifted well over 150 because there was 2 camps. We did another camp. I forgot. We did 3, but they were the easy jobs. Some of the families.
You thought as far as loss of life, that first night when we laid in bed, you estimated about 6, but you felt like it grew away as the months went on.
I had no idea the state that people were in because you're on a mission. Geoff would drop me onto a roof or whatever. You just picked them up, put them in there. We would count. Didn't want to leave them.
Of course.
So because some groups, there's a lot more people would all gather in one house. So you would say there's 6. So we were tracking how many people.
How were you keeping count?
Well, you had a pretty good idea with the numbers in those orchards for a start.
I remember it was Mr. Applelop, and I yelled out how many, and they said 26 or 30 or something like that. We'd blimmin' near doubled what they said there was.
They kept coming.
They kept coming
thick and fast.
Yeah.
I think we were lucky. If it had been winter, I no doubt we would have lost a lot more people.
Absolutely, yeah.
There definitely were people I thought, there's that bloody cold. It was interesting how people react. I won't mention any names, but some sort of tough guys, they were the ones crying.
Okay.
It really affected people deeply.
Yep.
So I spoke to Sally afterwards and I said, I felt really sorry. I looked back at you and I gave you a thumbs up, just a bit of reassurance you weren't going to fall out. And she says, I was loving it, mate. It was awesome. Yeah, and I thought, you tough little bugger, But she's a real character.
And some of the older people too, I know when we're flying into, and you're trying to communicate, because it was those hot water cylinders, the overflow pipes, and you're trying to communicate to them to knock it down. And some of them are like, they're just, their eyes are in...
they were wondering, what are these units doing?
Where the older people, you could do your sign language or whatever, and they'd get it, and they were way more calmer. They would like, yep, got it, push the wires down so we could fly. It's amazing.
It's interesting, eh? It's an interesting observation, about the older people that day, and they seem to get it, what you were trying to tell them, and What advice would you give someone else who was about to be plunged into similar circumstances?
I'd have a trap door in the top of my roof if I lived anywhere where I was going to flood. That said, I haven't done it myself yet. Because we're still there in Taradale. And I mean, if it had got through into Taradale, that water would have gone straight to the ocean, would have got everyone right the way through to the beach.
Exactly. And we're only millimetres from Taradale going. It's. I'm not religious. If that blew,
it would have been a whole different kettle of fish if that water had breached Taradale. That's for sure. But trapdoor, as I was saying, I don't know how practical that is, but after watching that poor lady on the south side of the Dartmoor road going up to Puketapu, where the husband was policeman. Anyway, she'd said it was incredibly hard to break that roofing wire under the roof and then obviously get sheets of iron off. So imagine trying to you had to be fairly strong to get the sheet up and then break that chicken wire. I don't know how the hell they did that, but as I said, their children, they'd asked Mum, are we going to drown today? And she said, if we die today, I'll hold your hand. It's pretty heartbreaking stuff to tell your kids.
Very.
So, they were extremely lucky.
Yep.
Oh, there's a lot of luck out there.
We're not a cash world like we used to be. Kind of nice to have a little bit of cash when the internet goes down.
Yes.
All those sorts of things. But it's definitely good to have a survival kit ready for anything. And if you see bad weather coming on I would definitely have an exit strategy for sure.
You can't comprehend how fast you have to leave a house. And we, being in the country, I never used to sleep on clothes, but now I sleep with pajamas, which is weird mentally.
Yes.
It's the weirdest thing ever.
Just in case.
When shit hits the fan,
when you're trying to get out and it's dark, trying to find clothes.
It's seconds. We're talking. You don't have time. You've just
got to get out of there, clothes or no clothes.
Yeah. So having a grab bag, it sounds crazy, but Ashton had just come back from hunting, so he had a hunting bag with him, so he was actually well prepared.
All right. Thank you. Do any of you feel like the experience has changed your perspectives or outlook on life?
I would say probably yes. Because I've been working as a touring pilot for several years, I haven't had a lot of contact with the local community other than when I'm home on break. And it was just really nice to be able to give back. I was fortunate that I was there, really. Long story, I was supposed to go 2 days earlier. I was travelling to Indonesia.
Okay.
And I knew that weather was coming, and I rang the company, and they were good enough to... So I sort of knew that bad weather was coming, but I didn't know what we were going to get. But I was lucky to be there for one.
Well, we were lucky that you were here.
Do remember we had there's other pilots out there doing equally good jobs.
Yes.
The Wazzers and the Little Jimmies. They were in the same valley with us doing good work too. And so we weren't on our own.
Jet boats.
Yes.
Skis. The jet boaters were
Absolutely,
incredible. Those people were instrumental in saving a lot of people. And I just think, big picture, the jet boaters were cool. So we weren't on our own, and there's so many stories out there. But people like Cam and Tara here, they've obviously been impacted, more directly, more brutally than you could put it. And anyone that lost their property, their revenue pretty much overnight, it's you wouldn't wish it on anyone,
And the community, I think.
And the community.
It was amazing, the effort. Our pack house, we got that running back with all the robotics under a year. And that was the support from the community. We took millions of litres of mud out of our sheds with sucker trucks, and the community would feed us.
No, it was impressive, really. Like I used to see that a lot, because the Australians do cop a lot more natural disasters, I think, overall than we do. And I've been on multiple fire campaigns where you see communities, they'll take their shirt off their back and. They're fantastic. I'll give an example. Bilpin, sort of west of Sydney in the hills there, they introduced fire where they shouldn't have. That's another story in itself, but they lost everything. And when you're landing there, you could just see the distress on people's faces. There's 64 houses got torched that afternoon by a really poorly planned backburn. The community support, I thought, when I saw it in Hawke's Bay, driving through Fernhill, going back to the airport one day, I thought, this is pretty awesome. We've got it too.
Yeah,
because you start to not believe, are we like this in New Zealand anymore? I was a bit disconnected with the community because I spent half the year away.
I think it really makes you reflect on like day-to-day life and who you give your energy to. Because I'm like I like to help people, and I give a lot back too. So certainly worked out who in my life wasn't really there for me, but lots of people that I hadn't seen for a long time are now back in my life.
Wow.
Friends and stuff that I've like made these really great connections with again. And like you don't need to ask them. Because the ones that say, let me know what you need, do they really want to help you? The ones that could just turned up They just turned up, because I didn't even know what we needed. I couldn't even focus on trying to get the kids to school, to be honest. They had no uniform, but couldn't get on the road to the school. Didn't have a car, actually.
Yes,
So lots of really cool people just turned up from years back that you might not see for years, and then all of a sudden they're at your house every day for a week. So you kind of sort of weigh up life's really short and precious, so I need to live every day and put ourselves around people that are fun to be around and give us back the energy that we deserve, really.
Yeah. That is quite a story, guys. Cam and Geoff, I know you think of yourselves as ordinary blokes, but I think it's fair to say that no one agrees with you. What you did that day was truly extraordinary. Selfless and heroic doesn't even begin to cover it. You must have been shell-shocked after getting your family to safety, Cam, but you didn't stop moving or think twice about getting airborne to help others. You were in, boots and all. You risked your life repeatedly and pushed your body beyond the limits to rescue nearly 200 people. It defies belief that the only injury you sustained was a cat bite. And Geoff, you were in the right place at the right time, and needless to say, brought exactly the right skill set to the occasion. Without that phenomenal skill and experience, there is no doubt that the loss of life here in Hawke's Bay would have been much higher. You've both been formally recognised with Civic Honours Awards, and in a slightly less formal acknowledgement, been given superhero capes by one of the families you rescued. Tara, it's true what they say, behind every strong man, there's a strong woman. You've faced the enormity of 2 flooded homes, more or less alone, as Cam rebuilt Taylor Corp. This has been daunting, devastating, and demoralising. But like Cam, you didn't pause for breath or stop moving. You have been the glue that held your family together through unprecedented adversity. The Taylor Corp rebuild could not even begin until 20 million litres of silt and sludge were removed from the pack house. Everything inside the 4 walls of this world-leading facility was lost. A year later, they were able to reopen. And 2.5 years later, they are still recouping the costs. Due to some very busy schedules, one of which is not based in New Zealand, this episode was a few months in the making. Thank you all so much for joining us today to share your incredible story. Thanks for listening to Under the Weather. It's easy to think that these disasters happen somewhere else, until it's your town, your community, maybe even your family picking up the pieces. Floodwaters rise and recede, but the ripple effect from these stories will endure. If you enjoyed listening to this, please share it, because it's not just about how or if we survive. It's about how we stand stronger together.